What is up, everybody? It is Wizaldo or Wesley, and today we are playing some OP 16.5, so it's post-starter deck Yamato. Now, if you don't know, Yamato gets this new Odin in the new starter deck. It also gets a new Kinemon in the starter deck, but I honestly don't think the Kinemon is going to be that great, just because generally the only turn you'd be able to play is when you're going second, and you can't attach Don to it like the Yamato, so it's just not a great one-cost play, although it is really good with this new You Can Be My Samurai tech that a lot of the Mihawk decks have been running. But if you don't know, my name's Wizaldo, or Wesley sometimes, and I do play a lot of Yamato. I really do love Yamato. I think it's a fun deck, and I actually got my first Nats invite ever on Yamato in OP 12, I believe. But Yamato is one of my favorite leaders because it has double attack, and then if your opponent is at 3 or less life, you can attach 2 Rested Dawn to one of your characters, which is really strong. With this new Odin, you do get access to Hiyori a little bit more consistently because you now do have 12 total 5 drops in your deck that you can play off of the Hiyori. If you don't know the Hiyori, you can play it, trash it, and then play 1 5 cost or less and then draw a card. So this Odin is basically going to be a draw 2. This is a really good consistency piece just because we are also running You Can Be My Samurai, and that combined with maybe an Ashura Doji if you don't want to swing with it, maybe a Yamato, or a Hiyori if you have it out on the field. Otama maybe, but probably not. Otama's mainly in here for a 2k. You can just rest 2 of them, draw 2 cards, pop the Hiyori to play out a 5 cost, draw 1 with Odin, or get one of the effects off, and just see the benefits of that. The Hiyori also lets you keep up an extra Don when playing the 5 cost, so your leader swing can be that much stronger. There's a lot of reasons why it's good. It is a little bit hard to get online at times, which is why before in previous deck lists I didn't run it. If you don't know what the Odin does though, you can draw 1 card and then up to one of your opponent's characters with an original cost of 6 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next end phase. Yamato also has the Wano Searcher that searches for a 2 cost or more. The Hiyori as a nice way to seed life, like with a Kinemon or a Kikinojo or an Otama if your opponent looks like they're going to be going for game and you have 2 floating Don. The Otama is a nice trigger, and if you need to use it to go for game and you only have 1 life, it is kind of like I pay 2 to play this, give my leader plus 3k, and then I can also have 2 additional Don to use with leader effect, so I don't lose out on the value with that. Izo is one of the strongest cards in the deck because it does give your leader Banish. Banish is really strong because it does apply to each of the double attack hits, so you will be banishing 2 life, which means your opponent is losing out on 2 cards that they would normally get. Really strong into yellow. Ashura Doji is a consistency piece if your opponent is playing really defensively and you're not getting them down to that below 3 life threshold because they have like blockers up and stuff. You can clear it with this. It is also really good into Borsalino, and Borsalino's pretty meta right now. It would actually probably be in the list if I didn't think Hiyori was a more important consistency piece. But Doji lets you KO a 5 cost or less if your opponent has 3 or more life, which into the 5 life leaders that are meta right now is actually pretty good, like Mihawk, and I believe we're also seeing some Purple NL. Kikinojo is really strong because it is a trigger body if your opponent's at 3 or less life, and a heal if your opponent decides to clear it. And when you're playing super aggressive, it is actually pretty good to get a heal sometimes because it just lets you be aggressive for another turn sometimes. Hiyori is a great play because it is basically a Zoro that is also a blocker, but it only works if your leader is multicolored, which is one of the reasons why we don't see it in some mono yellow decks over Zoro. Kinemon is a nice 2k that is also a trigger body. Yamato, this is one of the stronger new cards in the deck that you can play off of Hiyori. You can play the Yamato off of Hiyori, and on play gives 3 rested Dawn to your leader, and if you're going first, which you typically want to do, you'll also be able to swing a 9 because you'll have 1 extra Dawn up, and then on KO, the Yamato trashes a card from your opponent's life. You also have the Momonosuke as a defensive piece, and to other aggro decks like Goofy, it is a great card because it lets you essentially heal a life and use a blocker. It's also a 6k blocker, so if your opponent is swinging 5s at you, it's a great way to get free blocks. Momonosuke is a great way to power up your leader in the end game and also consistently get plus 1k. It is basically a 6 cost 8k with leader effect, and it has rush and gives you a leader plus 1k when you play it typically. You Can Be My Samurai is a great consistency tool. Like I said before, you're going to be resting some of your little bodies. And then Deadman's Game is a great tool for going for game or just playing aggressive. And because the deck is semi-brick heavy and you don't run a ton of Hiyoris to filter the bricks out of your hand, we are running one You're the One Who Should Disappear, which is also a great card to seed into life with Hiyori. That's the deck. If you are just here for the list, thank you for watching. If you want to see some gameplay, we'll get on to that now. All right, we're playing into an Enel. We definitely want to take first away from Enel. Really beneficial for me. I see turn 1 play and You Can Be My Samurai. I am keeping this. All right, so early we want to see some of our Izos. We don't see them, but I don't have any 2Ks in hand, so I'm gonna grab this Kinemon or the Otama. I think Kinemon is the better play here, because if I really need to, I could play it. Next turn, I just swing an 8, probably get a double attack in. Then I swing a another 8 after when I play Yamato, and 5, I guess, after that. And hopefully I can just out aggro the Enel going first, and the Yamato will help me develop bodies that are just hard to remove for the Enel, because by the time I play this out, unless they're at 0, they should still have at least 1 life to trash. So I get the value of the Yamato being KO'd. All right, they're gonna play an Ohm, which is a really good opener. It's gonna really help them remove my Yamato, but they have to trash a life if they decide to remove it. Classic Yamato opener of swinging 8 at life. If they do decide to counter out, they go down to 4 cards in hand. If they decide to take, they enable my entire deck basically. And if they don't take this turn, they run the risk of me dropping a banish next turn and then having to take it then and losing out on 2 cards. Yeah, I think it's always correct to take that first life, but hopefully with they might have gotten a Gamma Knife trigger here. Hopefully with the Yamato that comes down next turn, it puts enough pressure on them that they have to like give me 2-3 cards for that turn, or I get them down to 2, which would be even better. All right, Holly comes out. That's pretty scary, but I don't think it's really all that bad. I definitely counter out of the Ohm swing. I'll take this one, and then it is a 7 after that. Ooh, and we do see the Izo. I think I want to pressure life with the Yamato this turn, and then I'll clear the Ohm with my other Yamato, because they 100% I think counter out of the 8k swing from that. All right, and I will 2k 1k here, 2k 1k, and I'll use the Hiyori even though it's a heal piece at this point. And I will, ooh, actually I cannot clear with the Yamato. I forgot it bumps the Ohm up. I'll still pressure life. Like, I think this is the correct play no matter what here. I'll give 2 rested on here. I'll swing a 5 and then an 8. Ooh, they're gonna take that, interesting. I'm gonna swing at life, and if they take that, I mean, no chance I lose next turn. I have a You're the One to give me a lot of counter, and I can pressure life with a really big Izo swing, and I assume they're gonna take out one of my Yamatos, the 1 cost. All right, and we see our first secret Enel. Developing that does like put a lot of pressure on them. They didn't like develop anything defensive against me, so like my hope is that if I can counter out of one of the Holly 8k swing or something with like a You're the One plus a Kinemon, I can still put pressure on life, maybe get them down to 0. That's 100% gonna clear every time. The Holly swing could be a 9, which I think You're the One plus Kinemon still gets me out of that. Ooh, they're gonna clear my Yamato. They're gonna use a lot of resources to do it, so maybe I just pressure life. Oh no, they're just gonna freeze it. Okay. I will take this one, and I get another Izo, which is nice. I can develop a blocker. That probably just gets Mamoraganed, but I think the Momonosuke is going to be a pretty important piece for going for game here, so I will just pitch the You Can Be My Samurai and then the Kinemon, and then I just swing, like I just repeatedly swing everything at life and hope they kind of can't kill me with their swings. I go 1, 2, a 10 at life. Pretty scary for them, and I get a blocker that they probably just pop. That's one of the strengths of their deck. All right, they're going to defend, which is kind of crazy. All right, give 2 rested Dawn here, and next turn, if they can't freeze my Yamato, I have game with an Izo and then Yamato swing. But they could have game on me here if they can get a double attack off. Say they see a Gamma Knife, or not a Gamma Knife, they're gonna clear my Yamato, I assume. In that case, I just switch to a Momonosuke play. If I can hit them hard enough with the Momo, yeah, and that's gonna clear. I'll trash their life. My going for game plan here is to swing a 7, and hopefully that takes. All right, what did we see them grab? They grabbed a Gamma Knife. They used the Gamma Knife, and they're not going to grab anything here. So they could have up to, okay, they're going to L-Thor me. Now, this is what I was kind of scared of, where I could lose here. I'm going to take this first swing. I'm going to use the trigger to rest the Holly, and I should have game next turn. I can swing a 7, and then a really big swing with the Momonosuke, and that should be game for me. Okay, and we see a Kikinojo. That's even better. I should have game here. I need to keep 6 up for Momonosuke. I'm just going to deploy the Momonosuke, and that should be game for me. Swing a 7, and then another 7. And if worst comes to worst, and they can counter out of this, I can return 2 rested Dawn to my cost area, give 2 rested Dawn here, and then swing an 11 for game against a purple Enel. That was pretty good. I will say I did win because of the trigger. I 100% won because of the trigger. My hand was pretty bricked. I don't think there was any way I got out of that if I didn't see the trigger. If it was a different 2K, I still don't get out of it. It was just a pretty scary spot to be in, because I don't think I could have ever countered out of a 10 unless I got 2 2Ks and had another counter in hand. But I'm playing yellow. So gotta expect that sometimes. I'm gonna get one more game in and then finish up the video, talk about, excuse me, what I think about it and all that. All right, this is a deck that I think I am going to be pretty good into, just because in the early games, if I can banish that life, because they're going to be a 4K on their turn, I will be able to really take an advantage of the fact that they're a 5-life leader. One of Sabo's strengths is that essentially it is a 3-life 6K leader, sort of, with the extra life from being, I see some pretty strong cards here. I have 2Ks in hand. Ashura Doji is fine, but I think it's good because it targets base cost. If I could draw into an Ezo here, that would be even better. I think my opponent is 100% gonna fall down to 3 early, but one of the strengths is that I could, if I saw like 2 Ezos in a row, I could swing a 6, and it's a 6 and a 4, which is really strong. And if they give me the 2 cards and I play another Ezo, they're down 2 cards and I have just banished 2 cards. And then I could bounce one into life with Momo or something. But I think how it's going to end up being is next turn, I play the Ashura Doji, I swing a 5. They probably end up taking the 5. And then I redirect 2 to Yamato and then do all that stuff. All right, they're going to pitch a Kuma. And they're playing the Rev Army version of this deck. I actually think I was kind of hoping to play into the new Straw Hat crew version of the deck, but it's all right. The hack version is going to be pretty strong into me because they are going to be playing those out. So I guess I'm just swinging an 8 into life. I guess I could swing 5, and then if they take, I could redirect some stuff around. Ashura Doji is a really good target for resting with You Can Be My Samurai, but I think I just swing a 6 after. Yeah, and I kind of expected them to take that, and I'll just swing a 6. And now that they're a 5, it's a little less impactful, but if I just get a 2K here, that's fine. I could think about, ooh, they're gonna take down to 2. They are in prime Ezo range. I think I just kind of wanna clear their board. Maybe I play out the Hiyori until I see an Ezo, something like that. Could be a Samurai turn. Nope, they're gonna clear my Yamato with their hack. They do have a blocker now, but I cannot clear it with Doji, actually, because they took that second hit. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't. It's one of the strengths of Yamato, or of Doji, into these 5-life leaders, is after they take that first double attack, they are at risk. Alrighty, let's see. I think my turn here is just to develop a Hiyori and swing a 6. Not the greatest turn ever. I think one of like a 4-cost here, a different 4-cost would have been better. And not having anything out on the board to Momonosuke is also kind of rough. I assume I just get a 2K here. Yeah. This new Karasu is interesting. I am at risk of being hit with it, but I can always just react by countering early. I have a lot of 2Ks in hand, so I kind of have to hope that they swing 6s. They're going to swing 7 with Leader. I assume this turn they're going to get their first character out. Yeah, the Kuma. I've actually had a lot of fun with this Saba with the normal Rev Army package. I kind of built it in the same way that the... I will trash my... I'm never going to get the You Can Be My Samurai off this game because I can't develop a board early. Kind of built it in a similar way. I didn't build it with this hack. I don't want to play defensive. I play it in a really aggressive manner with the Ivankov and the Kuma, because the Ivankov can actually play out the Kuma and really just go wide doing that. Man, they're getting a lot of these hacks. All right, take that hit. I'm going to swing here. I will counter out of this with the Doji because it's like I need to be countering efficiently here. And here I think I just go, I go like this, deploy this, crash to play an Odin, and then the hack cannot swing. And now I can swing an 8, which is 2 over, and get an efficient swing in that they cannot block. And then next turn, if I need to, I can always bounce the Momo or the Odin into hand or into life with Momo, or I can play the Yamato, stuff like that. And I just have to hope my opponent doesn't get like a ton of blockers at this point. I think Sabo, the Rev Army's version of Sabo, the defensive version, is kind of what actually killed Yamato. That and Emu. And one of the reasons why I kind of dropped the deck after OP12, because 13 introduced a lot of power creep. But hopefully I can get them down low here. Maybe they're bricked or something, like 3 bricks and a bunch of 1Ks. Yeah, and they're going to take to 0. That's pretty good for me, because now I can just Deadman's Game and try and kill him. Maybe I take to 0 here, because I go to 9. Okay, and they concede. Yeah, they were super bricked. They were way more bricked than I thought. But yeah, I think I really do like Sabo. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comments and subscribe if you do want to see it. But yeah, I will go do the deck reflection now. All right, what is up? I've played the deck a little bit more, and this morning I wanted to get in and do a little bit more of a deck reflection than normal because I think this deck has a lot of places where it could end up going. I don't think, to be honest, that the deck is going to be like a pro level deck. It's probably not going to be topping too many events. I think it could definitely top 64 or Treasure Cup or something like that. I think a lot of people aren't ready to deal with the aggression that Yamato can put out. But I wanted to highlight some tech cards before I get into the final list that I have put together after playing even more. I've played some locals and stuff like that with a modified list and wanted to take some of those changes that I made to my in-person list and apply them to this list for 16.5. First off, in the tech cards are a bunch of Straw Hat cards. You could end up running a Straw Hat package over a Wano package, or maybe doing something like a hybrid package. But this Zoro is actually not too bad in the deck, but it is a brick, which is why I don't want to end up running it. It does let you rest one of your opponent's cards, which will typically be a blocker or a Don if they have Don up to counter, and then attach 3 to your leader, which is also pretty strong, especially at a 7 cost. If you're dropping this on 10 or even like 9, it's going to leave you 2 Don up to swing a 10 at your opponent, which just is pretty scary to deal with. The Onami, I think, is also really strong. It's another banish card. If we see a meta where it's a ton of yellow decks, which it's not looking like that, it's looking like a green meta, the Onami could be pretty strong just because it lets you banish those cards. I think this is also uniquely good into 5 life leaders, just because going banish 8Ks turn after turn, or banish like even bigger than 8Ks turn after turn, is really, really powerful. And it is a swingable body once you attach 2 Don to it. This Zoro is something I run in person that I'm not sure is going to end up being ran in my 16.5 in-person deck. I think it's a really good way to filter out bricks. I would swap this with the You're the One possibly, or just try and cut out some other stuff. But I do think the Fiori, the blocker in the deck, essentially is this, but with an on KO rather than an on play. This card guarantees you the heal. The Hiyori guarantees you a block and a heal if the block gets off. There are cards that can rest it, which is one of the reasons why it's a little bit weaker. The Borsalino in here just because it's a yellow card. It's one of the best yellow cards in the game and definitely worth thinking about. And I wanted to include I Know You're Strong because it is a Straw Hat Crew type card if you're going with that package. And I wanted to include it to also bring up its counterpart, Electric Luna. If you end up going more of a control route with the Yamato, maybe going a Wano like wall package, you get really defensive behind a bunch of these cards and just keep swinging 8s at your opponent, similar to the Supernova package that Yamato used to run. I think that could be good. But onto the actual final list that you'll also be able to find in the description, there isn't a ton of changes compared to the other list. I ended up cutting down on 1 Momonosuke and 1 You Can Be My Samurai to include 2 of this Luffy. It is cutting 2 bricks to include 2 bricks, so I felt like that was a pretty decent do, just because I don't want to increase the number of bricks, because it's a pretty brick-heavy deck a lot of the time. But this Luffy is probably one of the strongest cards you can put into the deck. I would want to see it at maybe a 3 of even, but I'm not sure there's room in the list. Maybe if you cut the Momonosuke down and go for more of an aggro package, but I do think this Momonosuke is really, really good into aggro matchups. If you remember in OP12 when Rayleigh was meta, this card won me games versus Rayleigh. This card is why I got my Nats invite. I played into like 3 Rayleighs the day I got my Nats invite, and I played this card once or twice in every single one of those games. It's especially good when you're trying to control the board and kind of slow down your opponent's aggro if they don't outscale you. But I think 3 is going to feel fine, especially if you're running this Luffy to tech in for those like really blocker heavy matchups, like the possible OP17 Luffy. I think OP17 Luffy might be really good, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to include it, to kind of future proof this list as well. But this is the final list. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you might take out. I know this You Can Be My Samurai is getting cut down more and more, but if you're going to take it out, let me know what you'd put in for it, stuff like that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like the video, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, and I hope to see you in the next one.